She left for a bike ride. She never came back. It was Mother's Day, 2020. Her daughters were away camping. Her husband had left for work early that morning. Suzanne Morphew was alone in the house, and by all accounts she was happy. She spent the afternoon texting someone she loved. At 2:05 in the afternoon, she sent him a selfie. She was smiling. She was sitting in the sun. She looked completely at peace. That photo was the last proof anyone ever had that Suzanne Morphew was alive.
When something like this happens, when somebody goes missing, you want answers. But this case is incredibly unique when you started to dig a little bit deeper.
Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day in May of 2020, and from there on out, it became a nationwide search for her.
What followed was 5 years of evidence, disasters, and revelations so strange that the detectives on this case, men and women who had seen everything, say they have never once stopped questioning everything they thought they knew. Suzanne Morphew grew up in Alexandria, Indiana, a small, quiet town surrounded by farmland. The kind of place where everyone knows your name and people leave their doors unlocked at night. She was warm, gentle, devoted to her two daughters, Mallory and Macy. The people who knew her struggled to find the right words. They kept landing on the same ones. Too kind, too good, almost too perfect. Her husband Barry had been her high school sweetheart, a baseball star talented enough to be drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. An injury ended that dream, but Barry rebuilt himself. He became a self-made businessman, building a landscaping company from nothing. From the outside, the Morphews were everything a family was supposed to be. But in 2018, they moved to Salida, Colorado, and the people closest to Suzanne say she was reluctant to go. Back in Indiana, she had her family, her friends, her sense of safety. In Colorado, she was isolated, and behind the closed doors of their mountain home, things were getting worse. 2 days before she disappeared, Suzanne sent her sister a text message. It was long, it was raw, and part of it read, "He has been abusive, emotionally and physically. I feel angry at what I have allowed." Suzanne Morphew was planning to leave her husband. Someone, investigators believe, made sure she never got the chance. Saturday, May 9th, 2020, the day before Mother's Day. Her daughters are camping. Barry is home. According to Barry, the evening was completely normal. They had dinner together. They went to sleep. He woke up early the next morning. Suzanne was still in bed, and he left for a job site in Broomfield, 150 miles away, without waking her. But investigators found something on Suzanne's phone that painted a very different picture of that final day. While Barry was supposedly home that Saturday, Suzanne was texting her secret lover, a man named Jeff, someone she had known since high school and reconnected with years earlier over Facebook. The two of them had been texting every single day for months, and on that Saturday they exchanged 59 messages, far more than usual. At 2:05 in the afternoon, Suzanne sent Jeff a selfie, smiling, happy, sunglasses on, sitting in the sun with no idea what was about to happen. That was her last known communication with anyone. At 2:26 p.m., Barry texted her. He said he was heading home early. She never replied. The next morning, Mother's Day, her daughters could not reach her. They called, they texted, nothing. They contacted Barry. He called a neighbor and asked them to check on the house. The neighbor found Suzanne's car in the driveway. The bike was gone. Suzanne was nowhere. Barry, rather than turning around and driving home immediately, went to a hotel in Broomfield. He was seen carrying equipment inside. The cleaning staff later reported the room smelled strongly of bleach. And then Barry made stops, 5 separate stops, at dumpsters scattered across the area, a bus stop, a McDonald's, a Men's Warehouse parking lot, a hotel dumpster, all of it caught on surveillance cameras. When investigators asked him about it, Barry said he just had junk in the truck. He didn't like paying for the landfill, so he would dump things wherever he went. 5 dumpsters, on Mother's Day morning, while his wife was missing. As investigators began pulling together everything they had, they found a series of details that stopped even experienced detectives cold. The first was what they called the chipmunk alibi. Barry's cell phone had been pinging at multiple spots around the outside of his house, moving rapidly, erratically, like someone running from one corner of the property to another. Investigators asked Barry what he had been doing during that time. Barry said he had been running around the yard shooting chipmunks with a tranquilizer gun. No evidence of any chipmunk activity was ever found. No neighbors heard anything. Nothing. Investigators believe those frantic phone movements tell a completely different story, that Barry was chasing Suzanne through the yard after she had already been hit with a tranquilizer dart. Inside the family's dryer, forensics recovered a small, clear plastic cap, the kind used to fill a tranquilizer dart syringe. Barry said he had no idea how it got there. But here is the thing. Barry had already told investigators, in his own words, that he owned a tranquilizer dart gun. He had used it for years to illegally sedate deer, cut off their antlers, and sell them. He knew exactly how to load the darts. He had the chemicals. He had done it many times. The next piece of evidence came from Barry's own truck. Using vehicle forensics technology, investigators extracted data directly from the computers inside Barry's Ford truck. And the truck told a completely different story than Barry had. Barry claimed he went to bed at 8 p.m. and left the next morning around 5. The truck showed movement at 9:30 p.m., the vehicle reversing, backing up closer to the house, more activity around midnight, and then a 4-hour gap, roughly 4 in the morning until 8, where the data simply disappears. 4 hours, no data. Investigators believe that is when Barry moved Suzanne's body. And then there was the spy pen. About 10 days into the investigation, forensics found a small recording device hidden in the walk-in closet of the master bedroom. Suzanne had placed it there herself. She had been secretly recording Barry's conversations, trying to catch him in an affair. The irony was devastating. The pen had recorded Suzanne instead, in deeply intimate conversations with Jeff, the man she was in love with. The man she had been texting 59 times the day she vanished. Jeff had gone completely quiet after Suzanne disappeared. He deleted his social media accounts. He stopped communicating. It took investigators 6 months to track him down. But when they found him, his alibi was solid. He was in Michigan that weekend. He had nothing to do with what happened to Suzanne. In May 2021, almost exactly 1 year after Suzanne disappeared, Barry Morphew was arrested, charged with first-degree murder. No body. Entirely circumstantial. But investigators were confident they had their man. Then everything fell apart. During the investigation, forensics had discovered unknown male DNA inside Suzanne's car. It did not match Barry. It did not match Jeff. It was a partial match to a man connected to 3 separate unsolved sexual assault cases. Cases in Phoenix, in Chicago, in Tempe. Suddenly there was a question hanging over the entire investigation. Could there have been a stranger? A predator? Someone no one had ever considered? Had investigators spent a year focused on the wrong person? And then came the legal disaster. The district attorney on the case was accused of serious misconduct, withholding evidence from the defense, missing deadlines, failing to hand over information that could have changed the outcome of the trial. The judge was furious. As punishment, he barred 14 of the prosecution's expert witnesses from testifying. 14 witnesses. Gone. Including the DNA experts, the cell phone analysts, the vehicle forensics team, the very people who could explain to a jury exactly what the evidence meant. Without them, the prosecution had nothing left to stand on. In April 2022, all charges against Barry Morphew were dropped. The case was dismissed. Barry walked out of that courtroom a free man. And then, within months, he filed a $15 million civil rights lawsuit against the investigators who had spent 2 years trying to find his missing wife. Suzanne's body had still never been found. September 22, 2023. Agents with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation are searching a remote stretch of land near a small town called Moffett, about an hour south of the Morphew home. The area is known locally as the Boneyard. They are there for a completely different missing person case. They are not looking for Suzanne, and then one of the agents notices something. A shallow grave, unmarked, half hidden in the earth. It is Suzanne Morphew. Her skeletal remains are positively identified within 5 days. But what the autopsy reveals next is what changes everything. Inside her bones, toxicology finds traces of 3 specific chemicals: butorphanol, azapirone, medetomidine. Together, they form a compound known as BAM, a wildlife tranquilizer used to sedate deer. Investigators go back through every single prescription record in the state of Colorado. Every wildlife officer, every veterinarian, every Park Service employee, every licensed rancher. They are looking for anyone who had legally obtained this specific compound in the years surrounding Suzanne's disappearance. They search the entire southern region of the state. There is only one name, Barry Morphew. He had obtained a prescription for BAM years earlier in Indiana and brought it with him when they moved to Colorado. He was the only person in the region who had access to it. The same tranquilizer he had used illegally on deer was found in his wife's bones. In June 2025, investigators tracked Barry to Arizona. He had been living quietly under a different name. His properties were not registered to him. His business was not in his name. When people recognized him, he told them they had the wrong person. His name was Lee, he said. He was arrested, re-indicted for the first-degree murder of his wife. His trial is currently scheduled for October 2026. This is what makes the Suzanne Morphew case so uniquely haunting for every investigator who worked it. From the very beginning, detectives believed they knew what happened. The evidence was overwhelming, circumstantial, yes, but overwhelming. The chipmunk alibi, the needle cap in the dryer, the frantic phone movements, the 4-hour gap in the truck data, the 5 dumpster runs on Mother's Day morning, but a combination of prosecutorial failures, unexplained DNA, legal procedures that had to be followed, and a case built without a body, let a suspected murderer walk free for 3 years. Detectives who worked this case have talked about the weight of it, going home every night knowing what they believed happened and knowing they could not yet prove it. Watching Barry give media interviews, watching him file lawsuits, watching him start over in another state under another name. Every answer this case gave them came wrapped in another question. Whose DNA was in the car? Why did the truck data vanish for 4 hours? Why was Suzanne's body moved from its original grave to the boneyard? Some of those questions may never be fully answered. But the question that has haunted investigators since Mother's Day 2020, what really happened to Suzanne Morphew, may finally be answered in a courtroom in October 2026. Suzanne was 49 years old. She had 2 daughters who loved her. She had plans. She had a future she was finally brave enough to reach for. We will be watching when that trial begins. And when it does, we will cover every moment of it. If this case stayed with you, subscribe, because next week we go even deeper. The cases that did not just confuse detectives, the cases that broke them.